How exactly does Kaamfu's minimal UI help reduce mental distraction compared with other tools? For example, what tasks feel easier?
The first way we do it is by combining the 5 to 6 tools that we all use constantly throughout the workday. We combine those into one place and eliminate all the context switching behind them because they're deeply integrated. So that ends up saving all workers about 90% of their clicks and that cognitive load that comes every time you toggle between apps. Another way that we do it is we eliminate all the unnecessary design flourishes, the unnecessary jumping buttons, the unnecessary extra pages, the unnecessary colors, and we've deliberately kept it extremely simple. Not only does this lead to a very calming effect when you're using Kaamfu because you know exactly what to focus on, but it also makes a highly performant UI that feels 2, 3, 4, 5 times faster than any of the other similar tools out there.
Can you give examples of everyday situation where a cluttered interface actually slowed down your work?
Well, I think the first thing is, if you take the 5 tools that you and your entire team are using every day, and every one of them's made by a different company and it's got a different user interface and a different set of color schemes and a different set of functions and maybe integrations. Well, if you put those all into one simple application, you're already eliminating a ton of complexity just by distilling down all the functions to, one tool. So that's the first way you recognize that Kaamfu is simpler. Now, are there some functions that you can't find perhaps in some other tools? Sure there are. But again, we know that if we just build the 20% that the 80% want, most people are going to be happy.
How will this design grow with me as my needs become more complex?
That's a good question. Well, we're pretty committed to our aesthetic. So the UI is always going to be minimal. But I think one major change that's coming is that we're going to see leaders and managers spend more time interacting not with buttons and functions and additional tools, but they're going to spend more time interacting with their AI assistant. In Kaamfu, it's called Kaamfu AI. And so I think we're already beginning, in early test users, we're beginning to see that when the Kaamfu AI interface can provide the same functionality as a couple of tools, they opt for the AI assistant. So I think that the move to an AI first user interface is well underway, and I think that will help us preserve the simplicity of our entire user interface.
How will this simpler interface actually make my work easier day to day?
In a lot of ways, but I mean, one of the most important ways is just by not having 1,000 unnecessary buttons yelling at you all day, every day, all throughout your work. I mean, that's cognitively refreshing. When your options are simplified and reduced, you down to the core of what you really need, you're just going to experience less friction, and that you'll feel it at the end of a workday when you're on Kaamfu.
How does a minimal UI help me stay focused when I'm under pressure or multitasking?
Well, when you're multitasking, it's all about rapidly moving back and forth between your tasks, and when you're doing that, you are experiencing a cognitive load every time you move back and forth between these tasks. So Kaamfu is really adept at that because of the way that we built it, so that you can really quickly toggle between 2 completely different tasks, or 3 or 4, and that will help you get up to speed when instead of having to move through 2 or 3 different workspaces with 5, 6 clicks each. Just one toggle will get you there, and that accumulates over time and makes work feel easier.
What did you intentionally choose to remove? And how did you know users wouldn't miss it?
User plans. So when you look at any SaaS today, you'll see about at least 3 plans, from basic to pro to light to enterprise. And at each stage you unlock a new set of functions. I deliberately built Kaamfu from the ground up to avoid that. We I truly believe in the reduction of cognitive load, and that begins from the moment you have to decide whether or not you want to use Kaamfu. And if you have to spend, 3 days trying to understand the differences between the plans, that's a tremendous cognitive load. So we start there at the actual buying phase, and I don't think users will miss that.
That's interesting. Why did you decide to only have one plan?
I decided to only have one plan because that's where my frustration with software begins. Every time I have to go to the pricing page and try to figure out what I need and then, pay accordingly, I'm frustrated. And I don't like it when, I've bought 5 or 10 or 15 seats, and then to get one feature unlocked, I have to upgrade the entire team. I just have never felt that was fair. And not only that, but from a software development perspective, you have to build all that infrastructure. You have to build out all of those, software triggers and actions that all those, paywalls. You have to build all that, and then on top of that, then you have to build your entire growth team around that, and you have to build all your documentation around that. So if you change it, it's a tremendous amount of work. So just to squeeze out a little bit of extra revenue. So I've never liked that. I've always felt that was a big part of the cognitive strain of using modern software. So that was really probably one of the very first things that I committed to, and we've stayed true to it ever since we started.